On the 18th of August last year, I put out a video about this reverb pedal. And at the end of that, I sort of concluded that I had no idea how to fix it and that I would come back and take another look. And this is how it's ended up. The following footage was taken over the course of the year, and I guess you'll see how we've ended up here. Been reading my way through Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and there's a chapter in there where it goes into detail about his approach to fixing things, quite early on in the book, to be fair. And it's made me think, I need to give this another go. I need to fix this stupid thing. I've rewatched my previous video, which is awful, actually. Probably the worst one I've done, and that's saying something. And really, it's I think what it's highlighted to me is that I didn't understand a lot about. I still don't understand a lot about how this works, but I think I need to go into a little bit more detail with the multimeter and really just sit down and go through every single component one by one and just make sure that it works as a component. And I suppose if I'm then reaching a point where I'm confident that every part of it works, then it must be something to do with how this was initially put together. Because as we've established, I don't know if this ever worked. So I think I'm going to start by testing every single component individually. Now, that you'd think that's going to take like an eternity, but I mean, that's it. What are we talking, like 10 capacitors, a couple of resistors, the IC, and some pots, and the switch, importantly. Just make sure that I'm happy that all of that works. And as before, my friend the Bacon and Eggs will be there as an amp. That's actually the only amp I own at the minute. There's been a lot going on in the 8 months since I last filmed a video. I've barely touched guitars. I've very rarely been really doing anything in the garage or with electronics or with instruments. So a lot of stuff's been sold, and I'm really down to quite a limited number of things, hopefully, that I can start building back together, rather than having just an assortment of things that I have, but actually having an assortment of things that I actually want. Test some things and sit here and listen to the most recent 2 Elios albums. I don't know if they're any good, but I didn't realise they'd released another 2. So I'm going to be sat here listening to French metal for probably the best part of 2 hours, just testing components. If I find anything, I'll turn the camera back on. Spot's dead. Right. I paused the Elios music video. Not music video. Album. So far, so good. I don't know how many songs through am I? Doesn't really matter. 6. This is taking me about 25 minutes, I think, poking. Yeah, 25 minutes on the video. This is going to be really hard to show whilst holding a camera, but I don't know if I can. So I tested every single pin on that. There was no shorts across that. I mean, got some bent legs, but that's fine. I then tested every single connection between where the IC goes in and the back of the board to make sure I was happy with that. Again, no problems. I then thought, well, since I'm here, I might as well check the pots, because this was what we had some fun with last time. Now, obviously, you would expect, if I'm going to have a problem with a pot, it's going to be our friend here, B100K. If I put the continuity tester on next to me, as I said, this is going to be really, really difficult with one hand. You can see 1, right? Now, when there is 2 probes touching each other, hang on, push that further on the table. 1, I touch the probes together, 0, right? How am I going to show this? Our friend here, B100K, okay? If I turn it all the way down and I stick that in that hole 1. If I go middle hole and far left hole on this, it turned all the way down, you can see continuity, right? If I go middle hole and far right hole, I should get nothing. If I now turn the pot all the way up, if I go far left hole and the middle hole where I previously had continuity, I should have nothing. And I go far right hole and middle hole, I have continuity. That's a good pot, right? Now, our friend B250K turned all the way down right now, yeah? Far left hole, middle hole, nothing. Middle hole, far right hole, nothing. Turn him all the way up. Middle hole, far right hole, nothing. Far left hole, middle hole, nothing. So the way this works is almost like a metal windscreen wiper along a metal sheet, graphite sheet, I think is what it actually is. So when I'm pushing it across, the resistance along that resistive graphite or whatever it's made of sheet is dependent on the position of that metal windscreen wiper, basically. So what that tells me is that with the metal windscreen wiper thing attached to, there is a name for that, but we're calling it that from now on. It's attached to pin 2, middle pin. That is making no contact with the resistive sheet on both sides, or the resistive sheet is broken, but I would suspect that rotor is broken. Now that would explain, if this is actually our mix pot, that would explain why we get none of the unfiltered signal, because this is effectively a dead end for that signal. So I would suspect I clearly need to replace our broken friend here, B100K. I might as well replace the other suspected broken friend, and I do actually have one that works, B10K. So 100K being 100 kilo ohms, he says, of resistance. B250K being 250,000 ohms, and B10K being 10,000 ohms of resistance. So I'm going to buy a new one of them, and once they arrive, I will solder them in, and I think that's the problem.
It wasn't.
Well then, I've got it back indoors, and there's some interesting, some good news and some bad news. So the 250K pot, this beast over here, works, and that is the feedback pot. I know that because it is now abundantly clear what that feedback pot does. I'm going to save that for once the pedal's fixed, because it's pretty extreme, if I'm honest. So it's not fixed, and why it's not fixed, I'm still a little bit confused by. However, I figured after last time with my not a wiring diagram, let's actually map this out. So I have mapped out this, okay? Now I don't know that this is, obviously it's far from perfect, but we're still missing the original signal. So the unprocessed, no reverb part of the signal, you know, the original strum. So I'm going through all of this, and I have this surround and delay circuit. Okay, now what's interesting here is my pedal resembles this quite well. This resistor is a little bit of a different value, but most of these are there or thereabouts, the same values given in here. Apart from that one, wait, hold on. Yes. that one. I think that one is this. It wasn't. Just multimetered it. It is indeed 63k. So I think that's the wrong. That's the wrong number. So it was. Oh, I want to say it was about 12 when I started looking at this. It's now 20 to 7. I think I'm gonna desolder everything. Completely take it apart, including this, and just start again, because it's down from editing again. It would be hard to state just how done with this thing I was after looking at this for 6 hours. And I think the point that I was at here was that I was convinced that something was, wrong fundamentally with how this had been wired. And it probably had never been right. Now, whether that is or isn't the truth, I'd sort of convinced myself the only way I was going to work this out was to take everything off and just put it all on a breadboard and start again. So that's exactly what I did. It's literally been 2 months, maybe, something like that. I've bought a breadboard, and what I'm going to try and do is to. Oh, that's not in focus. What I'm going to try and do is to basically wire this pedal up according to the wiring diagram, and then we'll test to see what manner of thing fixes it, or well, what really. So I'm going to start setting this up probably whilst binge watching. Is it a good idea to microwave this whilst I'm sat here just building this thing, really? I suspect this could take some time. So I've been at this for about an hour at this point, and I'm going off of this, which was the notes I drew from before. What I'm a little bit unsure of is somewhere along the line this is wrong, because I've desoldered all the components. As you can see, I've put them back on the board, as many of them as well as I can. I don't have as many of these 0.1 microfarad capacitors as the thing suggests I do, but I do have a resistor left over, and I've got these other capacitors. These are from the power side. So I have two problems. One, this is where the power comes in. I've not actually sketched that out, so I need to use this. For anyone who watched the first one, I need to work this out. It's been going on long enough that I have had to get the light out. But this is where I'm going to leave it for today. I've got most of it wired up. I'm pretty confident. So these are the ones that will eventually go to the B250K cap. There's a whole rigmarole of bullshit going on. This is ground. This is the power rail. Power input and output will come from there. The pedal out, effect out, sorry, is there. And effect in gets bridged over here. So I wouldn't say I'm confident, but I'm almost ready to plug it in, but I'm not doing that today. And so this was the first attempt at turning it on and seeing if anything worked. And it didn't. So time has passed since I last videoed this, but I now turn this on and nothing explodes. So I'm going to plug some leads in and a little lamp in and see what happens. But here's the thing. I tried and I moved things around and occasionally I got some weird noises out of the amp that were not really, reminiscent of anything that Planet Earth had ever heard before. And I think at this point I got to thinking about the ship of Theseus. And for people who are obviously familiar with this, it's the I think it's Greek myth about basically at what point you change bits of a broken ship, and what you're left with isn't really the original ship at all. You've got a completely different one in front of you. I'd got to the point where I was looking at this pedal board and thinking, this isn't really the pedal that I initially was trying to fix. And I think on that basis, I've learned things from this process in terms of troubleshooting components. But what I'm doing here is I am making a new pedal. I'm not fixing an old pedal. And if I wanted to do that, I probably wouldn't make this pedal. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this breadboard apart. I'm going to put all the parts into I'm going to test them all first. But I'm going to put them all into my electronics component box, and they'll get pulled out in other components, and it will live on in hopefully in loads of other different bits of electronics. But there's obviously a point where you look at it and you think, I really don't want to carry on messing with this, because I'm so far past the point of enjoying tinkering with this. And so this is getting parted out so that other things can hopefully be fixed. You never know, one day I might actually fix something on this channel.